All right. Welcome to Educators Without Borders, presented by SchoolRubric. I'm your host for today, Matt Jones. I'm a high school teacher, parent of two teens, Toby and London. How you doing? Co-host with my lovely wife, Lori, of the Teacher Saves World podcast. But I also recently wrote a book called Helping Teens Succeed in High School and Life. The goal of today's discussion is to demystify the book writing process by gathering some educator authors that have successfully written and published books, sharing their insight, their advice on what to do, and maybe more importantly, their advice on what not to do, in the hopes that many of you will be motivated to refine and share your wonderful ideas with the world. And what better way to make that happen than to spend some time with us and make it a part of your New Year's resolution. I'm excited to be joined by my friends and colleagues, Matt Rhoades, author of Navigating the Toggle Turn, Stephen Étienne Langlois, author of Rock Your Class, and Serena, author of Real Talk About Time Management and Real Talk About Classroom Management. To start, let's learn about our panelists, your role in education, as well as the focus of any books that you've written. Serena, let's start with you.
Right. So like you said, I am best-selling author of Real Talk About Classroom Management and Real Talk About Time Management. I am also adjunct faculty at University of San Diego. And I also do a lot of consulting. So I work with schools about classroom management, time management. And I've also worked with schools around the globe in Botswana, in Turkey, in Kathmandu about student empowerment. So I'm kind of everything education.
Awesome. All right, Étienne, what you got?
Okay. I am pretty blessed. I get to live a Hannah Montana life. I am a full-time teacher. I'm a department head at Sandwich Secondary School in LaSalle, Ontario, Canada. And the other half of me is I get to be an educational rock star. I literally tour all over the world doing sold-out shows in theaters and arenas worldwide. And the book that I have is called Rock Your Class, which does the marriage between the two, because we are all teacher rock stars, and that's what the book is about.
That's right. All right, Matt Rhoades, let's hear from you.
Hey, I'm Matt Rhoades. I'm a secondary teacher in San Marcos Unified. I'm also an adjunct professor at San Diego State University, and I also help to provide teacher candidates. I'm a consultant. So I got my hands in a lot of different things within K-12 as well as in higher ed. So definitely got a lot of things going on and really interested in ed tech, data literacy, and instructional models and that type of thing. So happy to be here.
Awesome. And all of these guys have been guests on the Teacher Saves World podcast this year. So I consider them heroes of mine, and you guys are going to learn a lot today. So as for myself, the book I wrote is called Helping Teens Succeed in High School and Life. I have been a middle and high school teacher for the last 20 years. And the book I wrote is about how to help teens maximize their development in high school to improve their trajectory into life. All right, let's get started. So in preparation for today's discussion, we fielded a number of questions from educators around the world who are interested in learning more about the book writing process. Let's play the first question, which comes from Tracy Smith, an international educator in Switzerland, and also a questioner at Socrates Head of School, an organization that conducts and publishes book distillations and reviews to inform professional practice in schools. Let's hear that question.
Hi, my name is Tracy Smith and I am the International Questioner at Socrates Head of School, currently working and living in Switzerland. The question I have is, what was the motivation when making the decision to write a book? I've thought a lot about writing a book and can't quite wrap my head around taking that leap of faith, and would love some perspectives from successful authors such as yourselves. How do I know my idea is good enough and that other people are going to want to read my book? Thank you.
Tracy, great question. Hey, Matt, why don't you get us started on that one?
Yeah, it all starts out with just having a passion and wanting to amplify your voice when it comes down to writing a book. And ultimately, I had a number of projects that I wanted to work on as a result of my doctoral dissertation. And that led into a data literacy project. But when COVID hit, I wanted to take the practices that I wanted to do in my classroom, which was blended, integrating ed tech. And I knew I could make an impact at that point. So I started writing blogs, and then ultimately those blogs turned into my first book, Navigating the Toggle Term. And then after that initial publication that I self-published, I wrote another book in the same year to get published by major publisher Peter Lang. So it just all starts with that passion and that fire in you to want to amplify and make a difference. And that's ultimately what I did.
Yeah, that's a great tip right there. Start with blogging, right? A lot of books start off as blogs. So great tip. I'm going to add some real nuts and bolts. If you're wanting to know if your idea works, there are some things you can do. Go on Amazon and look at their top 100 lists. See what is selling. What are people buying? There's another great tool called Publisher Rocket. That's a great tool from Kindlepreneur, and it can help you out figure out like how many books are being sold in different categories and what books are selling and what's trending. So if you're really concerned about whether or not you have an idea people want to read, that's a way to find out. But I want to say writing your first book is not about selling. It's about learning how to write a book. Write what you know. Write what you care about. Write the book that you want to read. That's what's going to sustain you in the long haul. Like when you're ready to write a book that maybe nobody's going to read, then you're ready to not just start writing a book, you're ready to finish the book. So I would say on your first book, don't worry so much about whether or not your idea is going to be read by a lot of people. Write what you know, write what you love, and start there. All right, let's move on to the next question, which comes from fellow podcaster Naomi Meredith. She is the co-host of the Innovative Teacher podcast and a K-5 STEM teacher from Colorado. Let's hear that.
Hey there, I'm Naomi Meredith from naomimeredith.com, and I help teachers navigate STEM and tech in the K-5 classroom. I'm also a co-host of the Innovative Teacher podcast. My question is, did you already know the topic and subject of the book that you wanted to write? Or is this something that you developed over time using the writing process? Also, how did you find the inspiration and the direction that will guide your book? Thank you so much.
Wow, great question. And I'm a big fan of the Innovative Teacher podcast. And I'm also really impressed that Naomi got her eyeshadow to match with her background. That was impressive. Serena, what do you got on this question? Oh, Serena, you got to unmute. There we go.
The idea.
Oh. There you go.
The idea to write the first book actually started with a friend. I had this confidant that I used to talk to about everything funny that Jamal did or Luis did in class or Sarah. And I started talking to him about how I was helping teachers too, mainly things about classroom management. And he said, why don't you write a book? And that kind of got me started with blogging because I thought, well, who would want to read it? And the way that it kept going was so organic because when a teacher would come to my classroom, I remember I had a teacher that had an issue with a parent, and she came to my classroom, and after I helped her through it, I wrote a chapter on how to deal with difficult parents. And that's kind of how the whole book came into fruition. And then before you know it, I had like 50 pages of just real questions that teachers asked me. And that's how the first book kind of got started.
There we go. Étienne, you got something to add?
I think the inspiration for me, I was in the same boat. I love the two things that have been said by Matt and Serena here. One is Matt talking about the blogging, because that's how I was told to start in order to find my own writer's voice, because in order to tell my story, that was the best way to do it for me. And Serena is talking about basically living her passion and her story. And that's what I wanted to do with my book. So with my book, what I wanted to do was share the fact that I believe that we're all teacher rock stars. And I wanted to talk about those parallels that are there, where our classroom is basically the concert hall, and in front of the class is the stage, the students are the fan base, the whole thing. And the same way that I get to perform in front of thousands of kids and get them all excited, it's the same methods that I use in the classroom to excite my students and engage them. So what I wanted to do was write a book that was an A to Z or A to Z book of creative tips that start off with stories from my continued years on the road touring and my crazy stories from the classroom that parlay into really creative, impactful tips for teachers K to 12, all grade levels. But just like I do in my concerts, I like to go overboard. So what I did with my book was I added QR codes with lesson plans and lesson templates that just drop right on your lap when you swipe them. So I was inspired to not just tell my story. I wanted to become a part of everybody's teacher's toolbox if they wanted to try one of the crazy ideas that I often learned from my experiences on the road.
Yeah, teachers becoming authors is a real natural, like we are naturally inclined to help people, right? So becoming a book author is just an extension of what we want to do. Yeah. Hey, Étienne brought up after this is done, stay on YouTube and just search Étienne. You are going to be amazed at some of those concerts. He is no joke. You have got to go search Étienne as soon as this is done. All right. Our next question comes from Dr. Christiana Jurgensen, an international educator in Saudi Arabia and another member of the Socrates Head of School team. Let's listen to Dr. Jurgensen's question.
Hi, I'm Christiana Jurgensen, a third-degree questioner with Socrates Head of School. I'm originally from Brazil, but I currently work in Saudi Arabia. And here's my question to you. How long did it take to complete the first draft of your book? And can you share some of the day-to-day processes in writing your book and some of the challenges you faced along the way?
Oh, love the question. Serena, you want to get us started?
Yeah, the first book for the first draft only, I was thinking about this today. I think it was like 3 to 4 years. And the reason that happened was because I kept letting life get in the way. I also didn't tell many people about it because I didn't want to be that person saying, I'm writing a book, because I didn't really know what I was writing about yet. And what I did to keep the momentum going with that book after I really got serious about it and thought, okay, I'm either going to finish this or I'm not going to do anything with it, is I went on meetup.com and I joined a writing group. And the cool thing about that was that they didn't know me. So it didn't really affect me as much. I didn't take it as personally as I would have with friends and family. The second book, we were in a little bit different of a situation because we actually had a contract signed right after table of contents were made because it was with Corwin as well. And we got that book done, no joke, in 4 months, meaning the first draft. The reason for that is A, it's a book about time management, so we're pretty motivated. But B, we had a schedule and we said, we're going to knock out 3 chapters a week each. I had a co-author, Dr. Edward DeRoche. And so we stuck to that schedule. We said, if we want this done in 4 months, how much do we have to do each week? Every Tuesday we sat down and met, and it was just like rocket speed. And a lot of that was because I had the confidence to know it was going to get published. So 3 to 4 years, 4 months.
Wow. So my first book, I wrote my book in about 3 to 4 months.
Wow.
And it was a 76,000 word book that ended up being about 250 pages. So I'm going to give you some real nuts and bolts. This is like, get your pad out, get your pen out. I'm going to give you some real step-by-step nuts and bolts. Here's what to do. There's a pre-writing process. Select some model texts. Like, know the types of books that you want to model your book after. Read some books, kind of select some features and things that you like. Have 1 or 2 or 3 books that you really want to model your structure after. Once you have that, dump everything out of your mind. For about a week, just dump all the ideas you have on paper. Just scribble down all of your ideas and then take all of those ideas and fit them into the structure that you have chosen and build your outline. Once you have a really strong outline, then set your time and your word goal. And for me, I said I'm going to write for 60 minutes a day. I knew that I'm a parent, I'm a teacher, I'm busy, but I knew that I could afford 60 minutes a day, and my goal was 1,000 words a day. So 1,000 words a day adds up pretty quick. So challenges, life gets in the way, like Serena said. if I had really gotten to 1,000 words a day, then I would have had a 90 to 120,000 word book in 3 to 4 months. I got a 76,000, word book out of me. So the key, as you're writing, is just don't beat yourself up if you have that day that you don't write.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If life gets in the way, if you got a meeting that comes out of nowhere, just don't beat yourself up. Just have a plan and just sit down every day, and you'll be amazed. The book will come. The book will come. I believe we have a question. Do we have a question? I'm hearing from the booth. Do we have a question coming up here? Oh, here we go. How do you find the time? When do you write? Do you have a schedule? Oh, that's from my wife. Hi, honey.
Careful how you answer, Matt.
Yeah, for my books, I tend to do 30 minutes a day, whether that's early in the morning or in the evening when I'm not busy with teaching class, meetings, etc. So really trying to focus on the mornings or late afternoon, evenings, or on the weekends. The weekends was when I got the most done because I was able to sit down for, like 3 to 4 hours if I wanted to, especially given the COVID situation. So just really didn't have any place to go. So just sat down and just, grinded it out and started writing a bunch. So it's really, being strategic about it and just finding time in that schedule. I mean, you're going to do more on some days than others, and that's okay because it's a process and you're going to have better ideas some days versus others. So it just goes and all that in that process.
Yeah. Serena, do you have a time that you work?
No, for my first book, I actually only wrote when I was inspired. I had this rule that I never wrote when I was in a bad mood or tired or just trying to get it done. And I feel like writing is energy. So the writing actually was really powerful and great, but it did take more time. The second one was a little bit more, data driven and stuff like that. So I was a little bit more methodical in the chapters, and I was also relying on someone else and vice versa. So that kind of kept me going. But the time I would write, it was really, I tried to do it when I wasn't tired and I was inspired, or I had oh my gosh, I should put that in a chapter, and I would open up my laptop and just start writing. So it's really the natural rhythm of my body.
Yeah. Étienne, how about you?
Well, for me, I think I followed the same procedure I do with songwriting, which is basically be open all the time to the muse of authorship now, I guess, instead of songwriting. But whenever I had an idea, I just pulled out my cell phone and I made sure I wrote that down so that I didn't forget it. And then when I found that quiet time, I would look back on the notes and go, yes, I'm going to build on this. And I was able to put puzzle pieces together and get across some of the ideas that I wanted to.
Awesome. We got another question popping in here. How many times did you consider just scrapping everything and not moving forward? Anybody want to chime in?
All the time with my first book, all the time, because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, and I think a lot of teachers are, and I was afraid that it wasn't going to be perfect. And once I scrapped that idea after a few years, I could move forward. But yeah, all the time with the first one. The second one, I kind of learned from the first and not so much.
Yeah, I would, so this book that I just published last year, I was looking through my Google Drive, and I actually have from years past, I totally forgotten. I have probably tons of unfinished manuscripts. And that tip I gave about once you're ready, you're ready to write a book and you don't care if anybody reads it, you're truly this is not about quitting your day job. This is not about, being a best-selling author. This is not about making a bunch of money, and you just really, truly have something to say. Then I was finally ready to finish. And I knew those early manuscripts, I wanted too many other things. I wanted validation. I wanted an extra stream of income, all these other things. So it happens. And that's why I think getting your mind right is probably the first part of this whole puzzle. And it's a natural thing to doubt yourself. All writers do it. Even the best-selling authors doubt themselves.
Can I just add really quickly, Shannon, you got a story in you. Do it. Sometimes you have to steel yourself to be really, really strong, and you have to just go ahead and press on. So Shannon, if you got that book in you, you keep doing it. Okay. And
also, Matt, what you said about validation. My first book, I remember the first time I went to the Panera writing group club, when I gave them the first chapter, my hands were literally shaking because I was so nervous that I wouldn't get their approval. And with the second book, absolutely not. So yeah, once we kind of scrap the idea that people have to love it and I have to be as good as the other authors, it's so much easier to keep on writing and not put it down.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's move on to the next question here. This is one I'm sure a lot of educators are wondering about: self-publishing versus publishing through a book company. Let's listen to this question from Spencer Sharp, who is the other co-host of the Innovative Teacher podcast and a STEM educator from Indiana, the Hoosier State. Let's hear it.
Hello, my name is Spencer Sharp, co-host of the Innovative Teacher podcast, and I am wondering the pros and cons of self-publishing over publishing with a company. Could you share your experiences when you went to consider these different publishing options?
All right, let's start. Matt Rhoades, do you have experience with both sides of this equation? Yeah, let's hear from you.
I do. So really, initially with my first book, Navigating the Toggle Term, and then the next Inception, the book that's coming out in 2021, the first book was self-published, and just going through the process of just writing the book, definitely got a number of initial rejections from major publishers who actually did come out with a book that was discussing some of the same things I was talking about, and basically said, why are you writing this during this time? But I didn't let the rejection get to me, and I knew that this could, help a lot of people. And I think the way that I was telling this could really make an impact, considering just navigating what's going on right now with COVID and then the future of K-12 education. So that really was one of the big things is with my initial book that I self-published. And then after that initial recognition with that self-published book and the impact I know that I was making, amplifying the voice of that through going on podcasts and just building my connections on Twitter and my social media. And I was able to, bring out my next book proposal to a variety of different publishers. Initially signed with one, wasn't unfortunately a good fit because it's kind of like a business relationship that we have to be on the same page. But fortunately, I was able to land where I was at now with Peter Lang. And got a good team behind me. And it just all matters about fit, timing, and being okay with rejection and putting yourself out there and knowing that if you have that passion and belief in yourself, that you're going to make that impact, then you're totally going to be able to, persevere. I mean, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint when it comes down to this type of stuff.
Yeah, and if you guys are interested in hearing more about all of these authors and their books, listen to the Teacher Saves World podcast that they were all on. Find the episode with them, and you'll get to hear more about their book. Matt Rhoades is Nostradamus. He is I don't know how you wrote this book, Matt. Matt was writing about distance learning and what we were going through, like way before anybody else was like taking it seriously. And we had Matt on the show, and it was phenomenal what I learned from Matt. So I self-published my book 1 year ago today. I was not a published author. And I had only started thinking about a book. By August, you could buy my book on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, and I had sales as far away as Japan. Self-publishing has zero barriers to publishing. If you want to write and publish a book, self-publishing makes that. If you are a DIY kind of person, self-publishing is for you. Now, there's no barriers, but you also don't really have that support either. Like, it is all you. You are going to have to do all the formatting. You're going to have to take care of all the graphics, all the everything. There's a lot of great resources out there. I found Fiverr.com is great. Fiverr.com. You can hire people to make your book cover. You can, and for totally cheap. It's called Fiverr because it started off as people doing jobs for $5. There are writing groups online. There's a lot, the KDP, the Kindle Direct Publishing forums is a great community to answer all of your questions. Self-publishing has great flexibility. You can pivot. I actually changed the title of my book. I changed the title and the cover. I was having issues with my cover. I just went on Amazon and I changed it. I could do that. The self-publishing of today is not the self-publishing of long ago. It's not you have to put a bunch of money up front. You're going to have books of boxes of books in your garage that you got to run around and try to sell. Print on demand has revolutionized how media is produced and sold. There is no upfront risk. There is no cost to you. You can make a book cover for free on Canva. You can make your book in Word and do everything for free. So I'm a huge proponent of self-publishing. I kind of would like to go with a publisher maybe for next time, but I think that's just my kind of my vain self wanting to see my books actually like on the shelves at Barnes and Noble. But that's just a little hang up for me. I think, I'm hearing from the studio. Do we have another question coming in?
Could I add something before we move on? Like what Matt said about having really thick skin with publishers, I thought of it almost like online dating. Like you have to have really thick skin. And I took the publishing route first, and I thought if it doesn't work out, then I'll have to figure out how to self-publish, because that's a whole different ballgame. And I applied to probably 10 or 12 different publishers, and I started getting the rejection letters back. I think I was rejected from 3 to 4 right away, just because they didn't publish the type of books that I was writing. It wasn't really anything about the quality of my manuscript. And I got so excited when those rejection letters came back, because it meant someone was reading my proposal. And I was actually cleaning up my closet the other day, and I have those rejection letters in a stack. And I just get really excited reading them still, because I just kept moving on. And the more rejection letters I got, the faster I was writing and sending it out to more, because it was actually becoming a reality.
Yeah, you're in good company, Serena. I mean, how many book companies famously rejected J.K. Rowling?
Yeah, and that's actually what I was thinking of as well.
Yeah. All right, we have a question, I believe, from the audience. What's the question? Throw it up on the board for us. What platforms do you recommend for self-publishing? Anybody want to? I used Amazon.
I use Amazon too.
Yeah, Amazon is just kind of the biggest. There are other ones out there.
There's Smashwords.
And Ingram Spark, I think, is another one. Amazon is just kind of huge. There's a lot of podcasts and videos and stuff that'll really help you figure those things out. But
I know with Smashwords you can get into Barnes and Nobles, Apple. So there's like 10 or different other platforms that Smashwords allows you to do it. But unfortunately, if you go Smashwords and Amazon, you can't do Amazon Kindle Direct. So you can't get that special promotion through Amazon. So there's definitely pros and cons when it comes to that. And the royalties are different versus Amazon and Smashwords. And also depends on the price of the book and how much you want to price the ebook versus the regular book. So that all comes down to it. I mean, I can tell you that from self-publishing, you'll make more money initially on your copies because you can get more of the royalty, but versus publisher, you will not. So that's what is really important when you have to think about that in those platforms.
Yeah, I my advice is to not overthink it. Like, you can really go down the rabbit hole trying to figure out what is the absolute best platform. How can I tweak the system? How can I get the most? Just pick one, learn it, and go for it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink it. They're all going to get your book out there. Just pick one and go with it. All right, let's move on to the next question. We have time for one more. Our final question comes from Rebecca Kuhn, part of the Socrates Head of School team. Let's hear it.
I'm Rebecca Kuhn, prolific questioner at Socrates Head of School. I'm from Kansas and currently living in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The question is, what kinds of opportunities and doors has writing a book opened for you? How is the reality of completing and publishing a book aligned with your expectations at the onset of the process?
Oh, great question. And I am so fascinated by this Socrates Head of School. I'm going to look that up. Étienne, let's hear what you got to say.
I'm telling you, this is what I was telling Shannon to go for it. Anybody out there writing a book, go for it. Brian Aspinall from Codebreaker Publishing probably chased after me for a year or two before I said, okay, finally, I'll do a book. And I am so glad that I did. The book, from the time that it came out, this is a credit to everybody who just gravitated to the book and became part of this journey, which is fantastic. It's all the teacher rock stars out there. The point was proven with the book, because when the book came out, it came out in April, and for over 7 months was #1 on Amazon. in like 9 different categories consistently. It was absolutely crazy. It's still really high too today. But from that, what came from it was we had to start doing online courses. So I've got the Rock Your Classroom Management course, Rock Your Student Engagement, Rock Your Teacher Toolbox course. I began working as a COVID consultant for schools and school districts because my belief is as teacher rock stars, we can still reach the students even online. I know that's an unpopular perhaps thought, but it's actually true. And we prove it with all the work that we've been doing since. I have a huge this week. I start my concert tour. I'm doing an online world concert tour, which I'm totally stoked about. And the book coming out, of course, helped a lot with the publicity for that. So we're going to be really busy with schools from all over the world doing that. And I'll tell you something that's just happened now is we just released our Rock Your Class Math Minutes program. It's a program with math raps and reflection inspection questions and lots of activities to make math fun, because let's face it, when it comes to math, learning the why of math is really important first before you apply the math. And so we're about engaging students and using that whole rock your class mentality for math. So all these things came out of this book that I had never thought about writing. So thank you, Codebreaker Publishing. And look what happened. So tell your story, share your passion, because you absolutely have it in you. And life is short, and go do that. Go make the difference that you were born to make. There. I'm off my soapbox now.
There we go. Yeah, Étienne is actually one of identical quintuplets. You're only looking at one of him. There is no way this guy gets all of this done. There has to be 5 or 6 Étiennes out there. I'm so amazed at your production. Serena, I know that publishing really changed your life trajectory. How did it change?
I didn't really realize, I just wanted the book published. I didn't realize what comes after that. So my first book, Real Talk About Classroom Management, was published in February 2018. And I was trying to get myself kind of known and get my feet wet by presenting at conferences, like the breakout sessions, on classroom management, things like that. And so I did a couple small conferences. And right after my book was published, I emailed a director of a new teacher conference that was happening in Arizona. And I said, hey, I know the deadline's kind of done, but do you have a kind of room to squeeze me into your conference? I'd really like to present to new teachers. And she wrote back and she's like, well, do you want a keynote? We can put you as an end keynote. I see you've written a book. And I was like, okay. And this was a month after publication. So I didn't realize how much having a book published has you be thought of as a thought leader in your field about what you're writing about. And so since then, I've keynoted 3 conferences now. The third one is coming up at the end of June. I did one when COVID first started in March. You're accepted to speak at conferences almost all the time if you have a book published. People just really gravitate towards you as a thought leader in the field. And so teaching college classes, you can do that as well. But opportunities, the glass ceiling is really just shattered when you have a book published. And I think that's true for self-publication and with a publisher. I was just accepted today to present at another conference in February. And so my plate's just kind of filling up. And I think a lot of it is these people not all of them have met me, but the fact that I have now 2 books published really just opens up doors and gives you a lot of confidence and knowledge moving forward to do what you want to do.
Yeah, great points. Like 1 year ago today, I was laying on the beach in Hawaii. I was not an author. I was on vacation with my family, and I just kind of maybe had an idea. And 1 year later, I count all of these people as my friends. I've had thousands of people listen to my podcast. It is you just got to do it. Throw yourself out there. The world, like you said, the glass ceiling shatters and the world opens up. Go for it. I think we have a question. We have a question coming in from the audience. Scheduling a time to write daily is hard for me. Do you designate a specific time each day or week? Who wants to chime in? That's similar to the previous question we had. For me, it's kind of like exercise. Mornings are the best, right? Because in the morning, you control your time. I get up before my kids wake up, before I have to go to work. If I can find 60 minutes in the morning, for me, then I know that I am less likely to be interrupted by colleagues, by students, by children, by dogs, by anything. So it's really about finding that time that is most consistent for you.
I really like to do to-do lists, putting on my Google Keep, just like I want to do this chapter given in this next couple of weeks. Like have those deadlines, putting on your calendar. Just doing that writing every day, like you're working out every day. I mean, it's just make it part of that routine, and ultimately that's going to build over time, and you're going to have something to work with if you continue doing that.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I actually, that doesn't work for me. I wish it did. Life's messy with schedules and things like that, meetings. And so I always just wrote when I was inspired. Now with my second book, we'll talk about time management. I was on such a tight deadline that I had to make sure I was just inspired more often. So I had to find maybe 3 times a week rather than 3 times a month. But it was always when I was feeling good and the words are kind of flowing out of me. Most people, though, a schedule does work. For some like me, it doesn't.
Yeah. And Matt, like Matt said, the exercise, metaphor is kind of like that in that, exercise, I don't really care for exercise, but once you get into a rhythm, you start to crave it. And I found writing to be the same way. Like at first it was a little bit of a chore, but then you just get in a rhythm. And I started to really look forward to waking up and sitting down at the computer and having my cup of coffee there and just dedicating that hour. Your body and your mind starts to really crave that rhythm. All right. We're out of time, but let's conclude with one piece of advice or a tip you'd like aspiring writers to walk away with today. I'm gonna bump in here. I'm gonna start. So here's a little motivational tip. Whatever you type on. I actually typed on. I'm a Google person. I typed in Google Docs. That's how I typed my draft, and then I moved it into Word. Set your margins like they are in a book. So for me, I set my margins at 2 inches all around, and it was 11 size font, so that the text on the page appeared like it would in a book. And it was motivational because if I was typing on the full page, 1,000 words wouldn't look like much. But when I typed with 2-inch margins, like how much text would be in a book, I was really motivated by how many pages I got done in a day. So set your margins like you would see in a book. And I found it to be very motivational. Étienne, what's your tip?
2 things. Remember that you are not alone. So you can always ask questions. That's the biggest secret to life, right? Is asking questions. And all 4 of us authors, you can reach out to us if you ever have any questions. No problem at all. We'd be happy to help you along your journey. And the other thing too is this whole idea about wanting to scrap things. Sometimes you feel you have writer's block. Remember that great advice that everybody says, you'll never have speaker's block. So always remember you're telling your story, not writing your story. So keep in mind that you are speaking your story and the passion will keep flowing right through you.
There we go. Good advice. Serena, how about you?
I have 2 as well. The first one is a little bit more practical. If you are looking at going the publisher route, I guess self-publishing, it does count too. You really want to stop writing and start building up your social media presence. Twitter, LinkedIn, a professional, Facebook, you could even put it on your personal Facebook. But when publishers look at you, they're really going to do a search, social media, and see if you've made a name for yourself already. Blogging is a great way to do that. But that actually will help you get published more than finishing the manuscript, which you don't have to do anyway. You just have to do a proposal and a couple sample chapters. Social media presence is so big, especially today. The second one is that stop thinking that it has to be perfect. Your book does not have to be perfect, but it's going to be perfect for somebody. If you believe in your message, just go with it and take that leap of faith.
Great advice. Matt, what's your tip?
I think one thing is that just know that focus on your professional learning network. Just for example, I was thinking about my next project and I just talked on Twitter. It's like, can you guys find me some research on these instructional strategies that I can use? So that got me going down a number of rabbit holes. And I got like 30 to 40 different articles on what I want to write about and do further research on. So really just asking out to the world, and also just looking at what are some successful authors that like their format, that what works. And for example, I look at Doug Fisher, Nancy Fry, and those types of individuals. And I look at their structure of their books and just kind of like what I have my expertise in, and just really kind of using a format similar to theirs or some other really famous author that you may really like, and use that as kind of that model, that mentor text, so that you can structure and write your book that way. So those are my really two key things to use while you're writing your book.
Yeah, I totally agree. Right. I mean, musicians, we learn cover tunes first, right? And so really have those mentor texts that really teach you how to write your book. All right, that's it. I want to thank my colleagues, Matt, Étienne, and Serena, for joining us today and sharing their book experiences. Matt Rhoades is the author of Navigating the Toggle Term. Étienne Langlois is the author of Rock Your Class. Serena Pariser, double author. She has the Real Talk series, Real Talk about time management and Real Talk about classroom management. And me, Matt Jones, I am the author of Helping Teens Succeed in High School and Life. Remember, you can check out any of our books in the links in the video descriptions. I want to thank you for tuning in to SchoolRubric's Educators Without Borders, where we convene leading voices in education to discuss issues that matter. And I also want to thank everyone for tuning in and for your support and all the great questions you guys threw us. Yeah. Remember to hit that subscribe button, like and follow, and stay connected with all of the latest content and stories from educators around the world. Until next time, happy writing and best of wishes for a wonderful 2021. Yes. Aloha, everybody.
Thank you for watching SchoolRubric's Educators Without Borders. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we highlight voices and perspectives of educational leaders across the globe. To stay in the know with our latest upcoming panels, interviews, tutorials, and more, make sure that you follow us on social media or visit us at SchoolRubric.com. Thank you.